Good morning, everyone. Let me call to order post 47th public meeting. We are handling this meeting remotely as we have most of our meetings. And let me first of all identify those who are in attendance. Commissioner Baker.
President. Good morning.
Commissioner Bluestone.
Good morning, I'm here.
Commissioner Calderon.
Good morning, everyone present.
Commissioner Ellison.
Good morning, President.
Commissioner Hall.
Good morning, present.
Mr. Kazarosian.
Good morning, present.
Commissioner Talley.
Morning, present.
We have had word from Commissioner Luma that she will be attending, but she will be a bit late for our meeting. We will note when she arrives. And I think with that, let me ask for a motion to approve the minutes of our January 23rd, 2024 meeting. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All right, Commissioner Baker, please.
Yes.
Mr. Bluestone,
Yes.
Mr. Calderon,
Yes, approved.
Commissioner Ellison,
Approved.
Commissioner Hall,
Approved.
Mr. Kazarosian moved.
Yes.
And Commissioner Talley.
Yes.
I also approve. The minutes are unanimously approved. Let me now turn to the Executive Director's report. Enrique, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. Let me share my screen to go through a PowerPoint presentation of, as is customary when as part of my report. Let me mention that I will be going through these items as part of the agenda in today's public portion. I will be providing the majority of the topics for discussion as part of this public portion. We will provide commissioners with an update regarding the latest release of disciplinary records. Secondly, I will be going through the reports that are due to post and emphasize the timing of those reports. The reason for doing so is the fact that we continue to receive questions about these requirements. I also feel it's important to remind agencies and the public of these requirements because we have an upcoming rollout of the new agency portal about which I will be also providing you with an update. The portal will be the new and only mechanism for submitting disciplinary information, and we will be phasing out the general email box for agencies to submit reports to post. Later, I will hand it over to Eric, our CFO, for a brief finance and budget update, and I will end with a brief administrative update as well. So I start my report this morning with an update on the disciplinary records. Last week, we included the next batch of data in an updated release of our historical disciplinary records. We have a practice of updating our reports at the beginning of every month, and the disciplinary records are no exception. I previously reported that we have been validating about 890 disciplinary records. That translates into more allegations. These records were the subject of the latest round of validation. Most of these records are now included in the public database. I will note that the records for 4 agencies, Brookline, Cambridge, Everett, and Chatham, are now also available in the public reports. They were not previously included, and they were part of the batch of validation that I just spoke about. So the new totals for the database are now 274 agencies, and that is reflecting 30 new agencies with at least one record. This is a total of 3,887 disciplinary records with 5,486 allegations. So a reminder, a record may include one or more allegations, and typically there's one and in a few instances there's more than one discipline that is imposed. I will further note that the new numbers reflected in the database really reflect the fact that several records have come down. There have been a few instances in which the agency has provided evidence that a particular record has been reversed or vacated in favor of the officer. And as per our regulations, those records come down when we get evidence that that is the case. So the database contains a net new of 582 records, which represent 917 net new allegations. Again, these are records for 274 agencies. Most of the records that are no longer in the database are relative to letters of counsel that have been removed or vacated as part of the officer's disciplinary history. We have approximately 50 more records, actually 50 to be exact, that are undergoing the final stages of validation. These last records are being sent to agencies, just like we did in the recent past with the records that I just spoke about, and will be published in the next release if we don't hear from agencies by the requested response time. We anticipate the last part of this project, the historical disciplinary records, really could be completed by the next release, which is anticipated for early March. These 50 records represent the last batch of these historical disciplinary records. These are all the records that were submitted to post by January 31st of 2023. They were initially submitted in 2022, resubmitted in 23. So it's really nice to finally have this part of the project coming to an end. The project of disciplinary records, of course, continues. But as I have reported in the past, the records submitted after January 31st are being submitted in real time. Post will pre-populate all of those records into the portal for agencies to update and validate as they begin to interact with the portal. This is, I guess, the Catch-up 2023 project. So it is only the portion of the historical records that we are concluding. The project of capturing information in real time regarding incidents and reports will continue, of course, in earnest. I should mention that we continue to receive occasional requests from agencies and individuals to make or modify a particular record. We make the necessary modifications when we receive evidence or documentation that warrants such modification. And for those listening, we remind people that there's a form available in our website to request those modifications. The topic of disciplinary records is, of course, one of great interest to law enforcement agencies and, of course, other stakeholders and the public. Notably, we have recently been asked a couple of different times, how can Post ensure data consistency across the database? This stems from the reality that some records include a fair summary of the circumstances, and other records really are lacking in detail. I'll first say that the primary focus until recently was ensuring data accuracy. And by that, I mean ensuring that the data submitted was migrated properly into our system, that there were no duplicates. We found a number of duplicates with the different migrations that we made through the different weeks and months, and ensuring that matching the individual for whom the record was reported was in fact an existing officer in our system. Again, collectively, we called all of these efforts the validation effort. So although these efforts will continue, we are really shifting our attention to enhancing the quality of the data. We recognize that there are many records that simply state something to the effect of conduct unbecoming, or are simply generally categorized as other misconduct and a category of other. In some instances, the details of a particular allegation may not have been entered, or in other cases, those details are minimal and not really very descriptive. This, of course, results in the reader having limited information about a particular set of circumstances. So we will work to ascertain and enter details that better explain the circumstances around these records, especially those circumstances of matters that Post is looking at. This is true for the historical disciplinary records, but this will take an ongoing and incremental effort for us to do that. For the most part, the data reported publicly is what was submitted to Post and may have been subsequently updated by the process that I just mentioned. The dynamic will be very different and much improved, we hope, when we roll out the portal. As part of this ongoing effort, we will be capturing information with a higher level of quality and in real time. And our intention is to report such information out of the portal on an ongoing basis, just like I described on a monthly updating our monthly reports monthly. And in most instances, that will be as soon as the investigation is completed. By way of example, the portal has embedded certain submission rules that will enhance data quality and data consistency, including certain fields that are required. In other words, where the person entering the information is not able to leave the screen unless certain information has been selected, entered, and validated, which is our process happening in real time, as I described. Furthermore, Post staff will be able to add notes to these records in real time, ask questions, and ask for validating information as needed. I will also mention that the plan is to assign at least one of our data analysts or more as necessary to the task of data mining and data analysis. These would be with the goal of spotting inconsistencies or information that may be lacking, and we envision this effort to result in selectively going back to agencies to request and reflect information that enhances the quality of our overall database. So we continue to receive the occasional requests to change the description of a record, sometimes to something that is less informative or would appear to intend to obfuscate the description. Of course, we are not making those kinds of changes, and it is we're not intended to approach it our efforts for ensuring data consistency that way. We want to go in the direction of enhanced descriptions. One way to enhance data consistency and quality is by ensuring that agencies are timely notifying to Post in the first place. As we continue to operate with our system and have done some of these data analysis, we have seen a handful of cases in which information that is due to Post isn't always submitted on a timely basis. Now, I don't want to create or give you the impression that this is a widespread issue, but I feel the need to report to commissioners these sporadic events to give you also an update of the steps that we are taking to communicate and enforce those requirements. Now, we're asked about this continuously, and we recognize that the 2 business day requirement is a burden on everyone, not just agencies. It's also resource intensive for Post. But as we have caught up with our general mailbox in preparation of the deployment of the portal, we have noticed that compliance with this requirement is, as I mentioned, inconsistent. So this morning, I'll spend a few minutes in the next couple of slides, reminding those in attendance of certain of the key provisions in submitting certain reports to Post. I suspect that we will have to continue to make this point on an ongoing basis, given that we are about to change the method for agencies to report these incidents and complaints. Yet another requirement that is not being adhered to consistently is the 90-day requirement to complete the internal affairs investigation. We recognize that some of the large agencies currently have a backlog of a lot of IAs that they need to get through, but this requirement is in the regulations, and there's a provision to extend that time and manage it. All we need to do is be appraised of that, of whatever details may be undergoing that particular investigation. So we will be able to manage and track extension requests and have a dialogue and an understanding as to why a particular matter may be lagging too long beyond the 90-day requirement. And again, as I reported previously, the portal will greatly help us in enforcing this requirement. All of these, of course, is predicated on the assumption that agencies will interact with the portal on an ongoing basis. If that is not the case, it is fair to assume that compliance will continue to be variable. So another tool in this area that comes with the portal is that we will be able to read when and who makes changes in the portal, as well as the absence of logins over a period of time. So I envision post staff reaching out selectively to agencies to remind those in charge of entering information of the requirements of doing so. So another aspect of ensuring timely notification to post stems to our relative to our communications efforts. So to ensure compliance with reporting requirements and timely notifications, we are ramping up our communications efforts. We're planning on emphasizing these requirements at different points and implementing different strategies. First, our communications team is working to enhance the information on our website and has planned deploying short videos to explain certain key requirements. Secondly, we continue to appear in front of every group who requests that we make a presentation and emphasize these requirements at each of these opportunities. This past month, I presented in front of to the chiefs in Middlesex and Essex counties. And last week, I presented to the Massachusetts Association of Latino Law Enforcement Professionals. Suffice to say that there's a lot of interest around the topic of disciplinary records. And in my view, a big component of these published lists is ensuring that the reports that are due to post are indeed submitted timely. Third, we have started a process of a major redesign of our website, which will continue to be the main tool to disseminate key information. The first step was to issue a procurement for web design services, and the responses to the RFR are indeed due tomorrow. We project that during the first half of this calendar year, we will make real progress in this initiative, and we're very happy to. We're very excited with this, as we hope that we'll continue to enhance traffic to our website and engagement with post. So I want to highlight the key dates for these reporting requirements. The two most important dates for agencies is the 2 business day requirement that I spoke about earlier, and the 90-day requirement to complete the internal affairs investigation. But as stated in this slide, the 2 business days are from the date of the incident. The report to post, agencies are required to post to report to post a particular incident or complaint. The agency has 14 days to initiate and open an internal affairs investigation, and they also have 90 days to complete that investigation. They, of course, do not need to wait for the 90 days if the investigation is complete. In other words, the agency is required to immediately forward to the results of the investigation to post. If an agency requires more than 90 days to complete that investigation, they are required to ask post for an extension of time. And finally, the agency is required to immediately forward to post the disposition or discipline that may have been imposed on the officer. For background, I am recalling now a recent conversation I had with a chief who thought that the key date for agencies was the 1-year milestone. This particular chief thought that this was the amount of time they had to conduct or complete an investigation. And I want to mention that the 1-year date is indeed a key date, as highlighted in this slide, but that is a date for post. The statute says that post can only initiate revocation proceedings 1 year after the initial notification to post, or after the final disposition by the agency, whichever is sooner. So in other words, the statute prevents post from stepping over the local process, but does so only temporarily. This is not an excuse on the reporting requirement. The year is not meant to apply to how long it takes to conduct the investigation. The investigation is governed by the 90 days that I already spoke about. And the year is simply a restriction on post to initiate the revocation proceedings. We hope to be engaged well before that year, and that begins as early as the 2 business days of the initial report. I will further note that post could take action sooner if the final disposition is resolved before the 1-year anniversary, but post does not have to wait indefinitely for the local process to be concluded. So from time to time, I do get questions directly from chiefs about what is due to post and when it is due. And we welcome all those phone calls and are happy to provide guidance at any time. More often than not, I will follow up in writing so that there are no misunderstandings. But any chief or any designated officer in charge of an IA is welcome to simply pick up the phone and talk to someone at the Division of Standards or, of course, myself. I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was meeting with chiefs recently, and a question came up again relative to matters that may not have been reported previously to post. There seems to be some concern that sometimes an agency may deem a particular incident or complaint as not credible. And it is true that complaints that are not credible are not reportable to post. Our regulations are clear about that. The specific question, again, that I've now confronted twice in a public setting is what happens when the agency deems something not credible, does not report it to post, and then such incident is subsequently the subject of a civil suit, perhaps, or a threat of a civil suit against the officer or the agency. The answer is an unequivocal submit that information to post. I will note that all complaints should have a presumption of credibility. It is only after some due diligence that lack of credibility can be ascertained. In our experience, the lack of credibility is typically ascertained after multiple unfounded complaints. So my advice to agencies is to err on the side of reporting to comply with the 2 business day requirement. I will further say that in the scenario described, it is conceivable that the demand letter or the lawsuit may include new information. And again, that would be yet another reason to submit all of that information to post. Even if there is no information, something of this magnitude should be reportable to post. I also want to mention the categories in which the statute and the regulations make no exception for minor matters. Those are all allegations that involve claims of excessive force, not just force that resulted in injury or death. All claims around bias or officer-involved shooting are also reportable to post. Some of the questions we have gotten recently about bringing down certain records, for example, from the database, are instances in which an officer was suspended. The chief who wanted that record to be taken down claimed that the events were not within post purview. I feel it should go without saying, but anything that results in a suspension is by all means within post purview and should be part of the disciplinary database. So I feel it's important to emphasize these key concepts. This may also go without saying, but Chapter 6E codified a lot of examples of prohibited conduct. The statute also codifies a lot of instances which would result in the revocation of the certification of an officer. I won't go through all that lists here, but needless to say that all allegations relative to that kind of conduct is obviously reported to post. The only category of misconduct in which the regulations make exception for minor matters is the broad category of unprofessionalism. This category, the regulations are very clear that when it comes to minor matters, certain the categories is defined as those that including discourtesy, basic work rule violations, tardiness, inattention to detail, grooming violations, and comparable infractions. Those are the matters that are not reportable to post. Agencies, however, are required to still capture and safeguard that information. I see a question from Commissioner Bluestone. I can.
Yes, thanks for stopping for a moment. Just quickly, so if there was a report, if an agency made a report that an officer was, let's say, tardy, would that be included in the database or would it be excluded by us?
So if they had already reported that and that decision has been vacated or reversed, and they ask us to bring it down, we will bring it down. If they already reported it and it will continue to be in the officer's record, we're not bringing it down. We feel it's a matter of public record, and it's something that the public wants to see. But our approach has been to hone in on a regulation that states that where a matter has been reversed or vacated in favor of the officer, that can come down from the database.
So I think the question I have about that is just then, if there is an agency that really is over-reporting versus one that's reporting with more caution, that those officers who are having issues like tardiness reported are going to be represented in the database where other officers would be excluded. It seems unfair.
Fair enough, Commissioner. One of the things that we can do is, as part of the data analysis that I'm describing here, is to figure out just how many of these instances, of these scenarios we may have, and maybe we can come back and report to you about this matter. But I hear you.
Thanks.
So as I was saying, we continue to say to the groups I meet with that at any time there is a particular question on any of these issues, simply contact POST and the Division of Standards or myself, and we can answer the questions accordingly. Okay, I can actually pause here to see if there's any more questions on the update about disciplinary records and records reports that are due to post. Otherwise, I can continue with the next part of my report. Okay. Let me then mention we have completed training for certain agencies as part of the soft launch of the portal. The agencies trained are also some of the agencies that were involved in the user acceptance testing of the portal that happened last September. Those agencies include some large agencies, and we've also included some smaller and medium-sized agencies based on the recent discussion with the Commission last month. The 13 agencies are represented here on the slide: Agawam, Barnstable, Boston, Boston University, Brockton, Fall River, Fitchburg, Lawrence, Leominster, the State Police, New Bedford, Salem, and Springfield. The agencies that I listed and I just mentioned were also included because they had submitted complaints and incident reports during 2023, and those have been pre-populated in the portal, like I just explained earlier, and that's an important way for us to begin interacting via the portal. That process has been going very well. It's been well received, and we'll continue to include additional agencies in the very, very near term. Staff continues to upload previously submitted information into the portal, and that process will be concluded in the very near future. We anticipate that we will grant access to additional agencies in the coming days, and all the agencies will be given access on March 5th, which is a Monday of this year. We will have office hours like we did when we deployed the certification portal. That was also very successful. We typically team up someone knowledgeable with the functionality, and it's somebody from the IT department who knows well about how a particular set of record is kept, or what happens after something is submitted. That person is teamed up with somebody who knows well the regulations and the reporting requirements, because we actually find that the training is not just on the functionality, it is really about the policies and procedures that are due as part of this process. So we expect that there will be different office hours at different times during the upcoming weeks in March, to ensure that people are utilizing the portal as intended. Finally, I want to mention a particular question that I received when presenting to an affinity group of law enforcement officers. The question is whether and how Post could analyze and report on demographic information of officers in the disciplinary database, in order to ascertain, for the public or us to ascertain whether there are disparities in the discipline imposed. I think this is a good question. I think I will mention that we do not currently have demographic information as asked about. We do, however, have the capability to capture such information, and if it was desired, we could implement capturing that information as part of the next recertification process. I will mention that NPTC, until recently, began capturing demographic information, and that is gender, age, race, and ethnicity. And in their case, they also began capturing information relative to veteran status and the highest level of education that has been attained. They have done so with the academies that they have been recruiting. And so it's fair to say that they only have demographic information of younger officers. So I will propose to the Subcommittee on Certification Policy that we consider this question as we continue to meet with that subcommittee. Let me pause here to turn it over to Eric Ravelo-Pradas, who is our CFO. He'll go through 2 slides on his finance and budget update.
Okay. Thank you, Enrique. Good morning, everyone. This will be rather quick. Just for right now, we are in just past halfway mark of fiscal 24 of the current fiscal year. So it's usually this time of year that A&F likes to check in with agencies and figure out how we're doing with our financial activity. But most importantly, they want to know Will you be spending all the money that you were given? And if not, how much do you think we're going to be getting back in terms of savings? A&F uses that to balance the budget at the end of every fiscal year. So we worked on that analysis. We had a meeting with Enrique and Commissioner Ellison to discuss where we think we are with spending. So for FY24, as of today, we do believe that our estimated spending for the entire fiscal year will be approximately 8.1 million. That represents 83% of the total allocation that was given to us for FY24, which, remember, includes $1.3 million in rollover amount that we had received from the prior fiscal year. So that rollover amount, while it was definitely much appreciated because it allowed us a lot of flexibility, which I think is very, very much necessary when you have a startup agency, but we were never certain that we would be able to spend that money. But it did give us that, allowed us to give us some leverage so that we knew going forward in FY24 that if any one-time expenses did come up, big expenses, we would be able to handle them. So 8.1 is what we're thinking right now. Of course, that could change, and we'll keep monitoring that. We'll keep an eye on that number as well. I also wanted to point out too that until we reach a steady state steady state status, it will be difficult to nail down a more precise budget. But once we achieve that status, we should be able to get numbers that will be much more consistent from year to year. Moving on to FY25 budget development. As you know, the governor filed her budget last month. The appropriation that was set for the Post Commission came in at $8.75 million. That was about $425,000 less than what we had requested. That represents it's less than 5%. A&F's reason for that was that they were looking statewide to limit overall budget growth. I mean, there are some areas of the budget that are always going to be heavy hitters like Medicaid and so forth. So of course and of course with the economy might be slowing up, so they want to be very, very cautious about how big the budget is going to look for the next fiscal year. We find the 8.75 acceptable, and we know this because we know we're going to have payroll savings. As I've mentioned to you many times before, when budgets are put together, the hirings, or I should say the payroll, even for those that haven't been hired yet, is done on an annualized basis. And no one gets hired for July 1st. It just never happens. It always takes several months to onboard someone. So there's always going to be some payroll savings. And because of that, we think that the 8.75 is an acceptable, workable number. Also, going on with that, we will be testifying before the Joint Committee on Ways and Means. We're told that it will be the week of March 18th. We don't have a hard date just yet. The Joint Ways and Means is working on that, but it will be that particular week, and it's going to be at Worcester State University. And Chairman Hinkle and Chairman Ellison will be joining Enrique in that testimony. Thank you, Enrique. And then just the final piece here, I just wanted to point out as now that we're on FY25, next year's budget, I do realize that 8.75 million is, moderate growth. It represents about, just under 3% of what was allocated to us in FY24, budget for budget, that is, not including any PACs or anything like that. But I do want to point out, too, that this does not mean that we're leveling off in any way or achieving steady state status anytime soon. We do think that future budgets will have larger expansions as we start looking at other areas of our mission that we still have not attained yet. And that, of course, includes physical, psychological fitness standards, certification of agencies, auditing agency records, and so forth. So there's still a lot more to do. So we might see some more expansions going forward. Okay, thank you very much, Enrique.
Thank you, Eric. If there's no questions for Eric or anything around the financial aspect of the report, I can go on to the final part of my report, which is mentioning that Post has upgraded the telephone system. The numbers in the screen are now dedicated phone lines with particular divisions. Our main line continues to be 8401. That was the case from the beginning. The commission, the communications office, the division of standards, the division of certifications, and my office have all dedicated lines as depicted in the screen. My extension continues to be 8402, and all of the lines that I just mentioned will have somebody answering the phone live during normal business hours. This, in the off chance that someone gets a recording, our practice is that everyone gets a call back the same day. The senior staff directory email addresses continue to be available in our website. So this information is now posted in the contact us portion of the website, and will continue there for the public and the law enforcement professionals to contact us whenever necessary. I will pause there and see if there are questions from commissioners that either Eric and I or anyone else can answer. Seeing none, Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Enrique and Eric, for your reports. Thanks all the member of the staff who have been involved in the matters that led to the information provided in the reports. Enrique, would you wish to just let the public know if they have any questions about the reports, how they can communicate with Post? Although
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's available on our website. It's also in the presentation. There's updated numbers. You know, people know how to find us.
Thank you. And I think with that, we will move on to item number 4 in the agenda. There are no matters not anticipated by me at the time of posting of the agenda, and thus we will now move into executive session in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 21A1, in anticipation of discussion regarding the discipline or dismissal of complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employer, or individual. In connection with 30A, Section 21A5, in anticipation of discussion regarding the investigation of charges of criminal misconduct. Also, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, combined with Chapter 6E, Section 8C2, and to the extent that they may be applicable, Chapter 6, Sections 168 and 178, in anticipation of discussion regarding the initiation of preliminary inquiries and initial staff review relating to the same and regarding certain criminal offender record information, and Chapter 38, Section 21A7, combined with Sections 22F and G of the same chapter, in anticipation of discussion and approval of the minutes of the prior executive session. And then the agenda itemizes that there will be a request for approval to conduct preliminary inquiries in 17 cases, reports of preliminary inquiry in 2 cases, proposed voluntary disposition agreements in 2 cases, and request to approve suspension in 1 instance. And I think with that, let me inform members of the public that we will not be returning to the public portion of the meeting. So at this point, let me just ask specifically members of the commission whether they agree to go into executive session. Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. Ellison? I believe he has stepped away briefly. We still have a quorum. His daughter is being honored in her class today for being the top math student in the school. Commissioner Hall?
Yes.
Commissioner Kazarosian?
Yes.
Commissioner Talley?
Yes.
And I also approve. And with that, we will end the public portion of the meeting. And we'll take a 5-minute bathroom break if we could. Get another cup of coffee, please. And then we will go into executive session. I wonder if I could ask that the information with regard to going into the executive session be, unless it has been rerouted to us this morning, so that we can know how to get that. Jamie, is that possible? Thank you.
And reminder, commissioners, it's a separate link that was sent, to you for the executive session.
Thank you very much.